friends, and welcome back to my homestead. Earlier I went out into my garden, and actually earlier yesterday I went out into my garden and I have harvested a bunch of wild edibles straight from my garden. And I have here a big pile of purslane. Purslane is a very invasive weed that grows everywhere, specifically in my garden. Really likes my garden, but guess what? Normally you just throw them, pull them out of your garden and you throw them away, right? Well, guess what? Not today. Today I harvested and I'm going to be cooking with it, and it's super, super nutritious. Purslane is often used in fresh salads or in cooked stews, soups, that sort of thing. It has a very mild taste. I'm going to give you a little taste right now. It has a slightly lemony taste, very, very pleasant. It's very plumpy and juicy. Purslane is often used in Mediterranean cooking, Armenian cooking, and I know my Armenian friends cook with it all the time. So today I'm gonna be making chicken stew. Storm Elsa is having crazy weather outside today, but it doesn't matter because I'm indoors and I'm gonna be cooking. So these are the things I'm gonna need for my chicken purslane stew. You guys ready? I'm just chopping up my bell peppers into small chunks, and you can do as big or as small chunks as you want. But I was raised, and my mama taught me, she cooked a lot of Ukrainian food, a lot of Tatar food, and she taught me to cut everything small because she said in a stew, everything's supposed to be uniform. So I'm gonna try to cut them up into similar chunks, everything, including the carrots. My carrots are not going to be very big chunks. They're going to be on a smaller side because that's not the star of the show. It should be an additional to the taste. So I'm going to cut them up smaller, and I'm going to start to brown my chicken in a little bit of oil. So friends, as I'm making this dish, I know stew sounds like not a good dish to make in a summer because it's hot, who wants to cook for a while in the kitchen, right? But I'm cooking it today because, first of all, it's miserable and wet outside from all of the rain and the storm we've had in the last day or so. But this can be cooked outdoors. You can put it in a cast iron and cook it low and slow on your grill or on the campfire. So it's actually a good skill to learn to cook in other places other than just your stove in your kitchen, okay? Because what if the storm took out our power? How would I cook? In the winter, I cook it on top of my wood stove. We have a wood stove, it heats the house, and I can cook things and bake things right on the stove or even inside the wood stove, okay? But in the summer, it's a good idea to have some sort of other source, such as propane cooking stove, or right on a campfire, something like that, okay? All right, so I'm almost done chopping with everything. And I'm gonna start browning my chicken. Okay, all my vegetables are chopped, and now I need to season my chicken and roll it, kind of coat it with some flour and start sauteing everything. All right, so I'm going to season my chicken. I'm gonna put some fresh cracked black pepper to season it well, and I'm gonna season it with salt. How much, guys? Really, it's up to you. But I'm gonna tell you one thing. Who wants to eat poorly or unseasoned meat? Then it's just gonna be very bland. We don't like things bland, so I'm gonna be some black pepper and some salt. All right, and a little salt here. All right, guys. So I'm using my beautiful cast iron deep pot here, and I'm just putting a little bit of oil on the bottom. You can always use butter, but I'm gonna be using a little bit of olive oil. Just remember that I always preheat my cast iron, and then I pour the oil. And now I'm gonna be just taking the chicken and like a little bit, coat a little bit in the flour, shake it off the axis because you don't want to burn that bad boy. And I'm gonna saute everything, okay? Because it's gonna add a good flavor to the chicken when it's browned like this way, but also it's going to help the stew to be a little bit thicker and not watery, okay? I'm gonna try not to crowd them too much, but I do have 5 pieces. Well, we'll see. Yeah, I think I'm gonna just brown 4 pieces for now. When they turn nice golden color on each side, okay, I'm gonna add all my vegetables. All right, so I just flipped the chicken and I'm gonna be adding my root vegetables. And I'm gonna start by adding the onion and a carrot because they take longer to cook, okay? You can really add everything at once, but I'm just gonna put those 2 together for now. All right, I know they're mixed a little bit with peppers here, but it doesn't matter. All right, and let that saute just real quick. And then I'm going to be adding the rest of it, putting a cover on, and let it cook together. All right, so I'm just going to throw this over. Let this cook together. It already smells so good in my kitchen, especially because the peppers are from my garden, and there's nothing better than the freshly cut peppers from the garden. Okay, so I think it's time. It's just sauteing very slowly, and the root vegetables are beginning to soften up a little bit. It's time to add the rest of my vegetables, all except for purslane and garlic. Those bad boys I'm going to be adding later. So here are my green peppers, including one little hot pepper, which is, by the way, is optional. You don't have to use it. And this is my small plum that I had. Again, it's optional, but I'm telling you, I like the slight little acidity that it adds to your dish, especially if you don't like to cook with any wine. But if you want to use wine, a little bit splash of wine would work here as well. And I'm going to be putting just a half a can of my tomatoes here, again, because if I had fresh, I would have added fresh, but I don't. So just a little bit of that, because that's going to add a good flavor and a good color to our stew. And guess what? Now I'm going to turn everything low, put a cover on, and let this bad boy cook for the next 20 minutes, 30 minutes, until the chicken is done. And when the chicken is done, that's when I'm going to be adding my purslane. Okay, so while the chicken is stewing with all of those vegetables, it's time for me to prepare my purslane, and it's already washed. But now I just need to trim it, okay? I need to trim it. I need to remove the roots because I no longer need them. But I do want the rest of these stalks. So this is gonna go straight to my animals. They will enjoy it. But I'm just gonna take my stalks with the leaves and I'm just gonna cut them into manageable size, because when I'm eating my stew, I don't want to get a big, like, long piece of vegetable. It has to be something that will be manageable, okay? So I'm just cutting this off, all right? And it's amazing how it cooks pretty fast. It will cook once I add it to the stew in about 10-15 minutes, not long at all. But I just want to get everything ready and everything kind of sitting and being ready for me when I need to put it in a stew. But I briefly just wanted to touch base on why is it important that I feel that we need to know wild edibles. Okay, so I was talking to one of my relatives not too long ago, and we were discussing how did our ancestors, without refrigeration, without without any imported vegetables and fruit during the winter, how did they survive? I know they struggled. I know my ancestors in Russia and Ukraine, they struggled to have enough fresh vitamins in the winter time. So in the spring, when the vegetables were popping out, or the weeds or the greens were popping out in the ground, our ancestors, our grandmothers, our grandfathers knew what was edible, okay? And they knew how to harvest and how to use it in cooking right away. One of those herbs, they're herbs, but also they're greens, is stinging nettle. And I know for a fact stinging nettle still is widely used in my old country to eat in a spring, because when they are young spring vegetables, they are absolutely delicious, and they add a lot of vitamin C, iron to your diet, because human body starves in a spring for some greens that are gonna be beneficial to us. And purslane is also very, very filled with a lot of good nutrition. So for example, it has a lot of vitamin C, iron, but also it's filled magnesium, but it's filled with a lot of good minerals as well that are essential for our bodily function. Okay, so that we'll have a good cellular exchange, and for that we need a lot of those minerals that sometimes you can't always get from processed foods. This is why it's important to know that, just in case there are, wild edibles that you can look into, but you need to know what they look like so you know that they're safe. So I have a separate video where I shared about what 5 common weeds that grow in a garden that are actually edible. And I also recommend a couple of field books that can be used to identify these plants. Because let me tell you, you don't want to eat something that's look-alike and potentially is dangerous or deadly, okay? So I always was interested in learning about wild edibles, not because I knew that that's how my ancestors lived and it's in my DNA, but also because I always want to be equipped, just in case with anything may happen, that I know what's growing around me, what is safe to eat, and what I can rely on for food source, okay? So purslane is that wonderful, wonderful food source. All right, so I'm gonna go check on the chicken to see what's going on. Okay, let's check on it. It's been cooking now for 30 minutes. It's a beautiful color. Okay, so I think the chicken is almost done, if it's not done already. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to add my purslane now and the garlic and let that all marry together for the next 10 minutes. Now I have a lot of purslane. You don't have to add so much. So I have 2 big handfuls, 3, 4. It's gonna cook down a lot. 5, okay? Big handfuls, like big handfuls. Okay, I'm just going to try to stir this together a little bit. All right, so everything is coated nicely together. And let that come to a boil and stew together for the next 10-15 minutes until the purslane is done. But let me crush some, and I'm gonna adjust salt and pepper right at the end because I want to make sure that everything is seasoned nicely. All right, let me put that garlic in here now. All right, so I found my garlic press. I'm just gonna put my garlic in here and then let them just sit here and be good friends, all stewing together. Okay, it's been 15 minutes cooking. Oh, wow, I think it's done. Turning off the light, the gas, listen to me. Turning off the heat, and I think it's time for me to taste it for salt, for pepper. I don't think I'm gonna need any pepper because I added that spicy pepper in there. Look how beautiful it is. All right. Okay, so let me just taste it just a little bit. Oh my word. Oh my goodness. It's perfect. No need for anything else. So normally I let my stews rest for 10 minutes. Just turn off the heat, put a cover back on, and rest them for 10 minutes before serving. But I just want to scoop up a little bit. I'm gonna leave the chicken alone, but I'm just gonna scoop out some of these vegetables with a little bit of purslane, a little bit of this delicious juice. First of all, look how much juice it created. Do you see all this? We didn't add any liquid at all. Remember that? No liquid. This is all vegetable broth, natural vegetable broth that's going to be filled with minerals and goodness. So I'm going to put a cover back on without burning myself here, hopefully. And let this bad boy rest for 10 minutes. But I'm going to taste this. Really, really good. So it's super hot. I'm going to boil it. The vegetables are cooked perfectly. Salty enough, spicy enough, no need to add anything, and it has that wonderful, slightly sour taste to purslane. Guys, if you ever cooked with sorrel, in Russian it's called shavil, this tastes just like sorrel, shavil, and it's filled with good minerals and good vitamins for you. Oh, it's so good. So hey, when you're pulling out weeds in your garden, don't throw them away. Look into if they're edible and cook them for your family. I have to finish this, it's so good. Really good. Perfect for such a day as today. Well, Elsa is almost done being crazy outside, and the sun is actually peeking through. The rain has stopped, and I'm gonna serve this beautiful chicken, I almost call it sorrel, chicken purslane stew to my family today for dinner. So friends, be encouraged to look into wild edibles. Even if there are weeds in your backyard or in your garden, just make sure you always harvest from clean environmental places. You know, alongside of the road is not the best place to go foraging. Always have a good resource book with you so you are safe when you are feeding yourself or your family. On this note, friends, I hope you stay encouraged and try something new.